The Rabbit Hole Chronicles. Episode 1. The Vanished Colony of Roanoke. August 18th, 1590. John White steps onto the shores of Roanoke Island, his heart pounding. He's returning to find his daughter Eleanor, his baby granddaughter Virginia Dare, America's first English child, and 115 other colonists he left behind 3 years earlier. But what he finds instead will become America's oldest unsolved mystery. The houses, dismantled. The colonists, gone. The only clues, the word Croatoan carved into a wooden post and CRO carved into a nearby tree. Welcome to the Rabbit Hole Chronicles. I'm your host Percival Blackwood, and today we're diving into a mystery that's more than 430 years old. One that involves vanished colonists, Portuguese spies, supernatural encounters, and what some researchers suggest might be a cover-up that goes all the way to the English crown. Buckle up, because what you think you know about the Lost Colony of Roanoke, it's not even half the story. Here's what they teach you in school. English colonists disappeared mysteriously from Roanoke Island. They carved Croatoan on a post. Nobody knows what happened. The end. But that sanitized version is hiding something much darker, something that involves a Portuguese pirate turned spy who might have sabotaged the entire colony. The worst drought in 800 years that nobody talks about. Native American testimonies that were deliberately ignored, and ghostly encounters that continue to this day. Today we're peeling back the layers of one of history's greatest mysteries. And trust me, by the end of this episode, you'll never look at American history the same way again. Let's set the scene. It's 1587, and England is trying to establish a foothold in the New World. Sir Walter Raleigh, the guy who supposedly laid his cloak over a puddle for Queen Elizabeth, he's financing this expedition. But here's where it gets weird right from the start. The colonists were supposed to go to the Chesapeake Bay, better location, more resources. But their pilot, a Portuguese man named Simon Fernandes, refuses to take them there. Just flat out refuses. Instead, he dumps them at Roanoke Island, a place where a previous English garrison had already mysteriously vanished. Now, who is this Simon Fernandes? Officially, he's just a pilot. But dig a little deeper, and you find out he's a former pirate who was saved from the gallows by Francis Walsingham, Queen Elizabeth's spymaster, the same spymaster who had a network of double agents throughout Europe. Why would a Portuguese pilot, working for English intelligence, sabotage an English colony? Some historians speculate that Fernandes was playing a double game. See, Raleigh had enemies at court. Powerful enemies who didn't want him succeeding in the New World. And Fernandes, he might have been their inside man. But here's the thing. We have no smoking gun document that proves this. It's a theory based on circumstantial evidence, and the strange pattern of his behaviour. But it gets stranger. John White, the colony's governor, doesn't fight this decision. He just accepts it. And then get this, just weeks after arriving, with his daughter having just given birth to his granddaughter, White leaves. He sails back to England, leaving behind 117 people, including his own family. Now, to be fair, the colonists voted to send him back. They were worried about their supplies lasting through winter. But still, This timing seems incredibly suspicious. Your daughter just had a baby in hostile territory, and you leave. When White finally returns 3 years later, delayed by the Spanish Armada, he finds the colony abandoned. And his search for them? Pathetic. He loses one anchor trying to reach Croatoan Island, where the colonists supposedly went, and just gives up. This grandfather, who should be desperate to find his family, just sails away. The drought they don't tell you about. Here's something you won't find in your history textbook. In 1998, scientists published a groundbreaking study in the journal Science. Using tree ring analysis from ancient cypresses in the coastal Virginia-Carolina region, they discovered that the Lost Colony arrived during the worst drought in 800 years. I'm not talking about a dry spell. I'm talking about catastrophic, civilization-ending drought. The years 1587 to 1589 were literally the driest in 8 centuries. Crops would have failed. Fresh water would have been scarce. The local Native American tribes would have been struggling to survive themselves. Now think about this. You're a colonist. You're already in the wrong location because your pilot betrayed you. Your governor has abandoned you, and now you're facing starvation in the worst drought in nearly a millennium. What would you do? The official narrative wants you to believe they just vanished. Poof, gone without a trace. But people don't just vanish. Especially not when there's a perfectly good explanation staring us in the face. They went native. They integrated with the local tribes to survive. But here's where it gets interesting. Why has this obvious explanation been suppressed for so long? The Croatoan revelation. Let's talk about that famous carving, Croatoan. First off, Croatoan was a real place. It's modern-day Hatteras Island. And the Croatoan people, they were friendly to the English. So the message seems pretty straightforward, right? Hey, we went to live with our friends at Croatoan. But the rabbit hole goes deeper. John White and the colonists had a secret code. If they left under duress, they were supposed to carve a Maltese cross above their message. No cross was found. This suggests they left voluntarily. But here's what's weird. Some historical accounts claim the carving actually said CRO on one tree and just CROA on the post, not the full Croatoan. Was someone interrupted while carving? Or has the story been embellished over time? And why Croatoan? The colonists' original plan was to move 50 miles inland if they needed to relocate. Croatoan was in the opposite direction. What made them change their minds? Recent archaeological discoveries might have the answer, though I should note, these findings are still being evaluated by the scholarly community. On Hatteras Island, archaeologists have found something intriguing. Piles of hammer scale. That's the waste product from iron forging. Native Americans didn't work iron, but the English did. The team, reporting their preliminary findings in 2025, also found rapier hilts, gun hardware, and what appears to be a gold ring with a Tudor rose. These aren't trade goods, these are personal items that colonists would have kept with them. Now, some archaeologists are debating the exact dating and provenance of these items. But if confirmed, this evidence suggests that at least some colonists made it to Croatoan and lived there for years, maybe generations. The native testimony they buried. In 1709, English explorer John Lawson documented something extraordinary. The Hatteras Indians told him, and I'm quoting here, several of their ancestors were white people and could talk in a book. Talk in a book. That's reading. Native Americans didn't have written language before European contact. These Hatteras Indians also had grey eyes. They valued their connection to these white ancestors. They knew exactly who they were descended from. But it goes even deeper. The modern Lumbee tribe of North Carolina has an oral tradition that they're descended from the lost colonists. And here's the kicker. They have surnames that match the colonist list. Brooks, Taylor, Dial. These aren't names that Native Americans would have independently developed. Now, I want to be clear. No published genetic study has conclusively proven this connection yet, though several DNA projects are ongoing. but we have archaeological evidence suggesting English presence. We have Native American oral traditions. We have matching surnames. The pieces of the puzzle are coming together. So why do we still call it the Lost Colony? Some historians argue that admitting the colonists went native didn't fit the narrative that 19th century American authorities wanted to promote. In the 1830s, when the Lost Colony myth really took off, America was in the middle of the Indian Removal Act. Stories of successful English native integration ran counter to the prevailing politics of the era. Whether this was deliberate suppression or just historical bias shaped by contemporary politics, well, I'll let you be the judge of that. The supernatural side. But wait, if it's that simple, if the colonists just integrated with the natives, why does the island have such a haunted reputation? Local folklore holds that since 1709, people have reported seeing a phantom ship off Roanoke Island. Not occasionally, regularly. Sailors, fishermen, tourists, they all describe the same thing. A 16th century English vessel that appears in the mist and then vanishes. Then there's the legend of Virginia Dare. According to local stories, the first English child born in America has been spotted as a white doe running through the forests of Roanoke. The tale says she was transformed by a spurned Native American witch doctor, and people still claim to see this ghostly white deer, always just out of reach. The Roanoke Island Inn, locals say it's haunted by its former postmaster. The Pioneer Theatre? Stories persist of a ghost there that knocks phones out of people's hands if they're being disrespectful. Now, whether you believe in ghosts or not, these persistent stories tell us something. They suggest unfinished business, unresolved history, stories that haven't been properly told. Or could something darker explain the persistence of these ghostly tales? Something that would explain why an entire colony's worth of spirits seem trapped on that island. The conspiracy deepens. Let me share one interpretation of what might have really happened. And I want to stress this is one theory among many. Simon Fernandez wasn't just a pilot. He may have been working multiple angles. Whether for Spain, for Raleigh's enemies at court, or for his own piratical interests, he deliberately stranded those colonists. But we don't have definitive proof of his motives. John White's behaviour raises questions. Was he a loving grandfather forced into an impossible situation? Or did he know more than he let on? The historical record is frustratingly silent. What we do know is this: the colonists were stranded in the wrong location, during the worst drought in centuries, possibly with hostile Spanish forces searching for them. They had limited options. Some likely went to Croatoan, others may have gone inland. Archaeological evidence and oral traditions suggest they survived by integrating with Native American communities, becoming something that challenged English colonial ideology. Here's where it gets interesting from a historical perspective. Some scholars argue that the Lost Colony narrative only became popular in the 1830s, during the era of Indian removal. They suggest that stories of successful English native integration didn't fit the political narrative of the time. Is that a cover-up? Or just the way history gets shaped by the politics of each era? I'll let you decide. So what really happened to the Lost Colony of Roanoke? The balance of archaeological and ethno-historical evidence suggests many colonists may have survived by joining indigenous communities. We have emerging archaeological finds on Hatteras Island. We have centuries-old oral traditions. We have surnames that persist in Native American communities. But questions remain. No European burials from the period have been found. The DNA evidence is still being analysed. And perhaps most intriguingly, the mystery persists because we need it to. Because admitting that the colonists likely survived means rethinking our founding myths. It means acknowledging that the first English settlers may have succeeded not by dominating, but by adapting, by becoming something new. The word Croatoan wasn't a mystery. It was likely a message, the colonists telling us exactly where they went. The real mystery is why it took us so long to take them at their word. But that's what makes this rabbit hole so deep. Every answer leads to new questions, Next week on the Rabbit Hole Chronicles, we'll explore the Philadelphia experiment, when the US Navy allegedly made a destroyer invisible and accidentally tore a hole in the fabric of space-time. Until then, keep questioning everything. The Rabbit Hole Chronicles is an independent production. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. And remember, the truth isn't just out there. Sometimes it's been right in front of us all along.